The night sky over South Korea was calm and quiet, filled with countless stars that seemed to twinkle like tiny lanterns. It was a peaceful evening until something unusual happened. A bright light streaked across the heavens, growing larger and brighter as it descended toward Earth. People in nearby towns looked up in awe, some pointing at the glowing object while others scrambled for their phones to capture the moment on camera. The mysterious craft moved slowly but steadily, its surface shimmering faintly under the moonlight. It landed deep within the rugged mountains of Gangwon Province, far from any major cities. News of the alien spacecraft spread quickly, sparking panic and curiosity around the globe. Governments scrambled to respond, unsure whether this arrival meant peace or war. In Seoul, Jin-ho sat hunched over his desk at the university, staring intently at his computer screen. As an astrophysicist, he had spent years studying the stars, dreaming of making contact with extraterrestrial life. But now that the moment had arrived, he felt uneasy. His mind raced with questions. Why here? Why now? And most importantly, what did they want? Jin-ho wasn't alone in his workroom. Across the table, Hye-jin leaned forward, her eyes fixed on another monitor displaying strange symbols scrolling across the screen. She was a xenolinguist, someone who specialized in decoding unknown languages. Her task was to decipher the message broadcast by the aliens moments after landing. The transmission, repeated endlessly, a series of clicks, hums, and tones layered together in what sounded almost musical. To anyone else, it might have been gibberish, but to Hye-jin, it was a puzzle waiting to be solved. "They're trying to communicate," she said softly, breaking the silence between them. "This isn't random noise, it's structured." Jin-ho nodded but didn't reply immediately. He trusted Hye-jin's expertise, but his instincts told him there was more to the situation than met the eye. For years, he'd devoured science fiction novels and movies, many of which depicted hostile alien invasions. Those stories were supposed to be fiction, yet here they were, living through something eerily similar. Was it paranoia talking, or was there genuine reason to worry? Before he could dwell further on those thoughts, Hye-jin gasped. "I think I've got part of it," she exclaimed, excitement lighting up her face. She played back a segment of the recording, isolating certain patterns and translating them into written characters. After several minutes of intense concentration, she turned to Jin-ho. "They're asking for help." "For help?" Jin-ho frowned. "What kind of help?" Hye-jin hesitated before answering. "Their home planet. It's gone, destroyed by some kind of catastrophe. They need refuge, and they're offering us technology in exchange." Jin-ho rubbed his temples, feeling overwhelmed. Refugees from space? It sounded too incredible to believe. Yet the evidence was undeniable. The signal came directly from the alien ship, and Hye-jin's translation left little room for doubt. Still, something about the whole scenario felt off. If these aliens were truly desperate survivors, why choose Earth? There were countless other planets in the galaxy, many uninhabited and rich in resources. Why risk exposing themselves to humanity? "We need to tell the government," Hye-jin urged, interrupting his train of thought. "If we don't act fast, someone else will try to make contact, and we can't let amateurs handle this." Reluctantly, Jin-ho agreed. Together, they prepared a report summarizing their findings and sent it to the Ministry of Science and Technology. Within hours, officials contacted them, requesting a meeting to discuss next steps. By the end of the day, Jin-ho and Hye-jin found themselves aboard a military helicopter flying toward the crash site. As they approached the mountainous region, Jin-ho gazed out the window, taking in the surreal scene below. Dozens of vehicles surrounded the area, their headlights illuminating the dense forest. Soldiers patrolled the perimeter, armed and alert. At the center stood the alien ship itself, a massive, sleek structure that seemed to defy logic. Its surface gleamed with an iridescent sheen, reflecting the surrounding trees and sky. Despite its beauty, the sight filled Jin-ho with unease. Something about the design felt alien in every sense of the word, not just unfamiliar, but fundamentally wrong. When the helicopter landed, Jin-ho and Hye-jin were escorted to a makeshift command center set up nearby. Inside, Scientists, military personnel, and government officials buzzed with activity. Maps covered the walls, marked with coordinates and notes scribbled hastily in red ink. Screens displayed live footage of the alien vessel, captured by drones, hovering cautiously overhead. Dr. Jinho and Dr. Hyojin, a stern-looking man, greeted them. He introduced himself as Director Park, head of the emergency response team. We've reviewed your report. You'll be leading our efforts to establish communication with the visitors. Hyojin nodded confidently, but Jinho remained silent, his doubts gnawing at him. What if the aliens weren't as friendly as they claimed? What if this was all a trap? He voiced his concerns during a private briefing with Director Park later that afternoon. I understand your apprehension, Park replied calmly. But we can't afford to ignore this opportunity. If we play our cards right, we could gain access to technologies far beyond our current capabilities. Think of the benefits for energy, medicine, transportation, and the risks, Jinho pressed. What happens if they turn on us? Park sighed. That's why we need people like you to ensure we're prepared for every possibility. With no choice but to proceed, Jinho joined Hyojin in preparing for the first official meeting with the aliens. They worked late into the night, fine-tuning equipment and rehearsing potential scenarios. When morning arrived, they stood side by side, outside the alien ship flanked by armed guards. Tension hung thick in the air as everyone waited anxiously for the visitors to emerge. Finally, a section of the ship slid open silently, revealing a figure bathed in soft, golden light. The being stepped forward, tall and slender, with translucent skin that pulsed gently as though alive. Its features were humanoid but distinctly not human. Large, almond-shaped eyes regarded the crowd curiously, while thin lips parted to speak. Greetings, the creature began, its voice flowing smoothly through a translator device strapped to its chest. I am Kael Ra, ambassador of the Vorthakian people. We come seeking support, not conquest. A murmur rippled through the gathered humans. Some looked relieved, others remained wary. Jinho studied Kael Ra closely, searching for any sign of deception. The ambassador's words sounded sincere, but appearances could be deceiving. We are grateful for your hospitality, Kael Ra continued. In return, we offer knowledge and technology to aid your development. Together, we can build a brighter future. Hyojin translated the message aloud for those unable to hear it clearly. Cheers erupted among the soldiers and scientists, but Jinho stayed rooted in place, his expression unreadable. Something about Kael Ra's demeanor unsettled him. The ambassador's calmness felt almost rehearsed, as though carefully calculated, to disarm suspicion. Over the following days, negotiations between humans and Vorthakians progressed rapidly. Kael Ra provided blueprints for advanced machinery capable of generating clean energy, purifying water, and curing diseases. World leaders hailed the discovery as a turning point for humanity. News outlets celebrated the dawn of a new era, painting the aliens as benevolent saviors. But amidst the euphoria, Jinho couldn't shake his unease. Late one night, while reviewing data collected from the alien ship, he stumbled upon something alarming. Hidden within the schematics Kael Ra shared was a blueprint for a device unlike anything he'd ever seen. Its purpose was unclear, but the sheer complexity suggested it served a critical function. Determined to learn more, Jinho decided to investigate further. Under cover of darkness, he sneaked past security checkpoints and entered the alien ship. The interior was even stranger than the exterior, with walls that seemed to shift and ripple when touched. Lights flickered erratically, casting long shadows across the corridor. Jinho followed a map sketched hastily from memory, navigating deeper into the vessel until he reached a sealed door. Using tools borrowed from the lab, he managed to pry it open, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside lay rows of organic machinery pulsating with dark energy. The sight sent chills down his spine. Whatever these devices were, they weren't meant for peaceful purposes. Before Jinho could examine them further, a voice echoed behind him. You shouldn't be here. He spun around to find Kael Ra standing in the doorway, arms crossed. The ambassador's glowing skin dimmed slightly, giving him an almost menacing appearance. What is this? Jinho demanded, gesturing at the machines. What are you hiding? Kael'ra regarded him coolly. Knowledge best left untouched. Your species lacks the maturity to comprehend such matters. Furious, Jin-Ho took a step closer. If you're lying to us, we'll find out. And when we do, you'll regret it, Kael'ra interrupted, his tone sharp. Do not meddle where you are unwelcome. With that, the ambassador turned and walked away, leaving Jin-Ho alone in the eerie chamber. Heart pounding, he realized. He'd bitten off more than he could chew. But one thing was clear. The Vorthakians weren't as trustworthy as they appeared. And if humanity didn't tread carefully, the consequences could be catastrophic. The days that followed Jin-Ho's discovery inside the alien ship were tense and uneasy. He returned to the command center, his mind racing with questions about what he had seen. The organic machines pulsating with dark energy haunted him, their purpose unknown but undeniably ominous. Despite Kael'ra's warning, Jin-Ho couldn't shake the feeling that the Vorthakians were hiding something significant, something dangerous. When he tried to confide in Hyejin, she listened patiently, but didn't share his alarm. Jin-Ho, she said gently, you're letting your imagination run wild. You've seen too many horror movies. These are refugees, not invaders. Her words stung, but Jin-Ho knew she wasn't entirely wrong. Growing up, he had devoured countless sci-fi stories filled with terrifying aliens bent on destruction. It was easy to let those fictional nightmares blur into reality when faced with actual extraterrestrials. Still, his instincts told him there was more to the situation than met the eye. Something about Kael'ra's calm demeanor felt practiced, as if the ambassador had rehearsed every word and gesture to perfection. Despite his reservations, Jin-Ho kept quiet, for now. Publicly, the negotiations between humans and Vorthakians continued smoothly. Kael'ra presented detailed blueprints for advanced technologies, including clean energy reactors capable of solving Earth's environmental crises. Governments around the world hailed the collaboration as a historic turning point. Scientists marveled at the elegance of the designs, while politicians boasted about the benefits these innovations would bring to humanity. But beneath the surface, cracks began to form. Reports started surfacing worldwide, unexplained phenomena that raised eyebrows among skeptics like Jin-Ho. Power outages occurred near military bases without any apparent cause. Satellites captured strange symbols etched into remote landscapes, glowing faintly before vanishing without a trace. Conspiracy theories spread online, claiming the aliens were secretly plotting against humanity. One evening, Jin-Ho sat alone in his quarters at the base camp, poring over satellite images displayed on his laptop. His eyes scanned the screen intently, searching for patterns or anomalies that might explain the strange occurrences. Suddenly, his phone buzzed loudly, startling him. It was a message from an unknown number. Look closer. Confused, Jin-Ho stared at the text. Was it a prank? Or worse, a threat? Before he could decide, another message arrived. The truth is hidden in plain sight. Attached was a link to a video file. Cautiously, Jin-Ho clicked the link. The footage showed grainy aerial shots of the alien ship taken by drones. At first glance, it seemed ordinary, but then he noticed something unusual. Tiny dots swarmed around the vessel, almost imperceptible unless you knew what to look for. They moved in synchronized patterns, resembling insects circling a hive. Zooming in, Jin-Ho realized they weren't insects. They were microscopic drones, so small they blended seamlessly with the air. His heart raced as he watched the drones disperse into the surrounding environment, burrowing into the ground like mechanical worms. Whatever they were doing, it wasn't good. Jin-Ho immediately forwarded the video to Director Park, urging him to investigate further. But when Park reviewed the evidence, he dismissed it as inconclusive. These could just be harmless probes gathering data, he said dismissively. We can't jump to conclusions based on speculation. Frustrated, Jin-Ho decided to dig deeper on his own. Over the next few days, he spent hours analyzing the drone activity, cross-referencing it with geological surveys of the area. What he found chilled him to the bone. The drones weren't merely collecting data. They were mining. Burrowing deep beneath the Earth's surface, they extracted minerals and other resources at an alarming rate. Worse still, The extraction process destabilized the ground, causing minor tremors that grew stronger with each passing day. Armed with this new information, Jin-Ho confronted Hye-Jin. "I know you don't want to believe it," he said urgently, "but we're being played. The Vorthakians aren't here to help us, they're using us." Hye-Jin frowned, torn between loyalty to her friend and skepticism about his claims. "Even if that's true, we need proof, hard evidence that proves beyond doubt they're lying." Determined to provide exactly that, Jin-Ho enlisted the help of Min-Soo, a reclusive hacker rumored to have unparalleled skills. Min-Soo agreed to assist after hearing Jin-Ho's concerns, diving into classified government files related to the aliens. For days, the two worked tirelessly, piecing together fragments of information until they uncovered something shocking. The Vorthakians had been secretly mining Earth's core using nanobots embedded miles underground. "This isn't sustainable," Min-Soo muttered grimly, pointing at the data on his screen. "If they keep this up, they'll drain the planet dry within decades." Before they could act on their findings, disaster struck. During a routine inspection of the alien ship, a group of scientists discovered a hidden chamber filled with grotesque, organic machinery. Unlike the devices Jin-Ho had stumbled upon earlier, these were fully operational, emitting low-frequency vibrations that made the hair on their necks stand on end. When one of the scientists touched a control panel out of curiosity, the machine roared to life, emitting a deafening screech that sent everyone scrambling for cover. Alarms blared throughout the base camp as soldiers rushed to contain the situation. Inside the ship, Kael'ra appeared moments later, his glowing skin flickering erratically. "This is a misunderstanding," he insisted, though his tone lacked its usual composure. "Those machines are essential for our survival. They pose no threat to you." Survival. The word echoed in Jin-Ho's mind, fueling his anger. Survival? At whose expense? He wanted to shout the question, but bit his tongue instead. Now wasn't the time for confrontation. Not yet. As the incident faded into memory, tensions simmered below the surface. People began whispering behind closed doors, questioning the Vorthakians' true intentions. Even Hye-Jin started noticing subtle changes in Kael'ra's behavior. His once steady glow fluctuated unpredictably, and his voice carried a slight edge, whenever pressed about the aliens' motives. One night, unable to sleep, Jin-Ho wandered outside the base camp. The stars above twinkled brightly, reminding him of how vast and mysterious the universe truly was. For a brief moment, he allowed himself to dream of a future where humans and aliens coexisted peacefully. But reality quickly intruded, dragging him back to the present. Nearby, a young soldier named Ji-Un stood guard, her rifle slung over her shoulder. She glanced at Jin-Ho curiously. "Can't sleep either?" she asked quietly. "No," he admitted. "Too much on my mind." Ji-Un nodded sympathetically. "It's hard to trust them, isn't it? Even though they seem friendly, there's always that nagging doubt." Jin-Ho smiled faintly. "Exactly. And I think I'm starting to understand why." Over the next few weeks, strange events escalated. Natural disasters intensified worldwide, with earthquakes rocking major cities and oceans receding inexplicably in certain regions. Scientists scrambled to find explanations, but Jin-Ho suspected the Vorthakians' hidden agenda was causing these phenomena. Each tremor, each shift in weather patterns felt like a warning, a reminder that humanity was walking a razor-thin line between cooperation and catastrophe. During one particularly violent quake, Hye-Jin finally confronted Jin-Ho. "Okay," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "You were right. There's something wrong with all of this. But what do we do now?" Jin-Ho hesitated, unsure how to answer. They couldn't go public with their suspicions, not without concrete proof. Doing so would only incite panic and possibly provoke the Vorthakians into retaliation, yet staying silent felt equally untenable. Every second they delayed meant more damage to the planet, and potentially irreversible consequences for humanity. "We prepare," Jin-Ho said finally. "We gather allies, build networks, and wait for the right moment to strike back." Hye-Jin stared at him, her expression a mix of fear and determination. And if that moment never comes, it will, Jin-Ho replied firmly, because we won't let it slip away. As dawn broke over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Jin-Ho felt a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. Humanity had faced countless challenges throughout history, emerging stronger each time. This time wouldn't be any different. Together they would uncover the truth and fight back against whatever horrors the Vorthakians had planned. The tension between humans and the Vorthakians grew thicker with each passing day. While the world celebrated the promise of advanced technology and newfound hope, Jin-Ho and Hye-Jin worked quietly in the shadows, piecing together fragments of evidence that hinted at a darker truth. The microscopic drones burrowing into the Earth's crust were only the beginning. Every discovery they made painted a clearer picture of the aliens' real intentions, and it wasn't pretty. Hye-Jin had finally come around to Jin-Ho's way of thinking. No longer dismissing his concerns as paranoia, she now shared his determination to uncover what the Vorthakians were truly hiding. Together, they spent long nights analyzing data, cross-referencing satellite images, and poring over intercepted transmissions from the alien ship. Each new clue deepened their unease. It became clear that the Vorthakians weren't just mining resources, they were altering the planet itself. One evening, while reviewing seismic activity reports, Hye-Jin noticed something alarming. The tremors occurring near the alien ship weren't random. They followed a pattern. They seemed to radiate outward in concentric circles, growing stronger with each wave. "It's like they're mapping the Earth's core," she murmured, her voice tinged with dread. "Testing its limits?" Jin-Ho leaned closer, studying the graphs on her laptop screen. "Or preparing for something bigger," he added grimly. "What if this is all part of some larger plan?" Before they could speculate further, Min-Soo burst into the room, his face pale and sweat beading on his forehead. He held up his phone, shaking slightly. "You need to see this," he said breathlessly. On the screen was a live feed showing massive cracks forming in the ocean floor near Japan. Water surged violently, creating whirlpools that swallowed entire ships whole. Coastal towns reported sudden tsunamis, catching residents off guard. Scientists scrambled to explain the phenomenon, but no natural cause fit the bill. The timing and location matched perfectly with areas where the Vorthakian drones had been most active. "This isn't an accident," Min-Soo whispered. "They're destabilizing the planet's crust deliberately. If this keeps up, we're looking at global catastrophe." Jin-Ho clenched his fists, anger boiling inside him. "We have to stop them, now!" But stopping the Vorthakians wouldn't be easy. Their ambassador, Kyle-Ra, continued to charm world leaders, offering solutions to humanity's problems while downplaying concerns about the strange events unfolding worldwide. His glowing skin pulsed calmly during press conferences, his tone soothing and reassuring. To most people, he appeared trustworthy, a savior sent by fate. Only those working closely with him, like Jin-Ho and Hye-Jin, saw the cracks in his polished facade. Kale-Ra's behavior grew increasingly erratic. During private meetings, his translucent skin flickered unpredictably, sometimes dimming completely, before flaring back to life. His once steady voice wavered when questioned about the Vorthakians' true motives. Once, during a heated exchange with Director Park, Kale-Ra snapped, "Your species cannot comprehend the stakes involved. Trust us, or suffer the consequences." That outburst sent shockwaves through the human delegation. Even Park, who had always defended the Vorthakians, began to doubt their sincerity. Still, public opinion remained firmly on the aliens' side. People clung to the promise of technological advancements, unwilling to believe their supposed benefactors harbored ulterior motives. Jin-Ho knew they needed irrefutable proof to turn the tide. Without it, any accusations would fall flat, dismissed as fear-mongering or conspiracy theories. So he devised a risky plan: infiltrate the alien ship again and gather hard evidence of the Vorthakians' hidden agenda. The operation required careful planning. With Min-Soo's help, Jin-Ho hacked into the security systems surrounding the vessel, disabling cameras and sensors for a brief window of opportunity. Armed with portable scanners and recording devices, Jin-Ho and Hye-Jin slipped past, guards under cover of darkness. Ji-Un, The soldier who had bonded with Jin-Ho during the earlier quake volunteered to act as lookout, ensuring their escape route remained clear. Inside the ship, the air felt heavier than before, charged with an unsettling energy. The walls shimmered faintly, shifting colors as though alive. Strange symbols glowed softly along the corridors, casting eerie shadows on the floor. Jin-Ho led the way, guided by a crude map sketched from memory. Hae-Jin followed close behind, clutching a tablet loaded with decryption software. Their destination was the chamber Jin-Ho had discovered weeks earlier, the one filled with organic machinery pulsating with dark energy. As they approached, the hum of the devices grew louder, vibrating through their bones. When they reached the door, Jin-Ho hesitated, remembering Kyle Ra's warning. But there was no turning back now. Using tools borrowed from the lab, Jin-Ho forced the door open. Inside, rows of machines lined the walls, their surfaces covered in writhing tendrils that resembled veins. In the center of the room stood a massive structure resembling a cocoon, encased in a thick layer of translucent material. A faint heartbeat echoed within, slow and rhythmic. "What is that?" Hae-Jin whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know," Jin-Ho admitted, "but it's not good." As they scanned the chamber, their equipment picked up unusual readings. The machines were emitting low-frequency waves that resonated with the Earth's core, amplifying seismic activity. Worse still, the data suggested these waves were weakening the planet's structural integrity, making it more vulnerable to collapse. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. Red lights flashed, bathing the room in an ominous glow. Footsteps echoed in the corridor outside, growing louder with each second. "They know we're here!" Hae-Jin exclaimed, panic creeping into her voice. "Grab everything you can and let's go!" Jin-Ho shouted, stuffing data chips into his pockets. Just as they turned to leave, Kyle Ra appeared in the doorway, blocking their exit. His glowing skin flared brightly, illuminating the room. "You should not have come here," he said coldly, his voice devoid of its usual warmth. Jin-Ho stepped forward, holding up a handheld recorder. "Then explain this. Why are you destroying our planet?" Kyle Ra's expression hardened. "You do not understand the sacrifices required for survival. Your species has squandered its own resources. Now you must share ours. So you're willing to sacrifice billions of lives for your own benefit?" Hae-Jin demanded, her voice rising. "That's not survival. That's genocide." For a moment, Kyle Ra looked conflicted, his glowing skin flickering uncertainly. Then, with a resigned sigh, he stepped aside. "Leave. Take your evidence and show it to your leaders. Perhaps then, they will see the futility of resistance." Without wasting another second, Jin-Ho and Hae-Jin bolted past him, racing toward the exit. Ji-an met them halfway, guiding them safely back to the base camp. Once there, they uploaded the data to secure servers, ensuring it couldn't be tampered with or destroyed. The next morning, Jin-Ho presented the findings to Director Park and other high-ranking officials. The evidence was undeniable. The Vorthakians were using Earth as a resource mine, draining it dry without regard for the consequences. Yet even armed with this knowledge, convincing others to act proved difficult. Many feared retaliation from the aliens, while others simply refused to believe the worst. Frustrated but undeterred, Jin-Ho decided to take matters into his own hands. He contacted trusted allies across the globe, sharing the evidence and rallying support for a coordinated response. Among them was Subin, a former soldier-turned-rebel leader known for her tactical brilliance. She agreed to help, bringing with her a network of fighters determined to protect humanity at all costs. Together, they formed a secret resistance movement operating under the radar to avoid detection. Their goal was simple: expose the Vorthakians' true nature and drive them off Earth for good. As days turned into weeks, the group planned their first strike. Using stolen alien tech, reverse-engineered by Min Su, they prepared to sabotage key mining facilities controlled by the Vorthakians. It was a dangerous mission, fraught with risks, but failure wasn't an option. The fate of the planet depended on their success. Despite the mounting challenges, Jin-Ho felt a renewed sense of purpose. For so long he had doubted himself, questioning whether his fears were justified. Now, standing alongside brave men and women ready to fight for their home, he realized the truth. Humanity's greatest strength lay not in its technology or weapons, but in its resilience and unity. And united, they would remain until the very end. The resistance movement grew stronger with each passing day. Jinho, Hyejin, Subin, and their allies worked tirelessly, planning operations to disrupt the Vorthakians' mining activities. They knew time was running out. Every second the aliens remained on Earth brought them closer to irreversible damage. The stakes were higher than ever, but so was their determination. Jinho found himself spending more time strategizing with Subin, a woman whose sharp mind and unyielding resolve inspired those around her. She had once been a decorated soldier before leaving the military to fight for justice in her own way. Now, she led the resistance with quiet authority, earning the trust of everyone involved. Among her team was Ji-eun, the young medic who had stood guard during Jinho's earlier infiltration of the alien ship. Ji-eun's bravery and compassion made her a vital part of the group, tending to both physical wounds and emotional scars. Despite their efforts, tensions within the resistance began to surface. Not everyone agreed on how far they should go to stop the Vorthakians. Some argued for diplomacy, believing there might still be a chance to negotiate peace. Others, like Subin, insisted that force was the only option. "They've already shown us their true colors," she said during one heated meeting. "We can't afford to wait any longer." Hyejin often found herself caught between these opposing views. On one hand, she admired Kael-Ra's intellect and eloquence, traits that reminded her of humanity's potential for greatness. Yet, she couldn't ignore the mounting evidence of betrayal. The drones, the seismic disruptions, the organic machinery designed to exploit Earth's resources. Each discovery chipped away at her lingering admiration, replacing it with cold resolve. Amidst the chaos, Minsu continued his work behind the scenes, hacking into classified systems and uncovered even more disturbing truths. He discovered that the Vorthakians had embedded nanobots not just underground, but also in major cities, disguised as harmless dust particles. These bots monitored human activity, collecting data and feeding it back to the alien ship. Worse still, they carried payloads capable of releasing toxins into the atmosphere if triggered remotely. "This isn't just about mining anymore," Minsu told Jinho grimly. "They're preparing for total control." Jinho nodded, his jaw tightening. "Then we strike first." Their plan was ambitious. Sabotage 3 key mining facilities simultaneously, crippling the Vorthakians' operations and buying humanity enough time to regroup. The mission required splitting the team into 3 groups, each tasked with a specific objective. One would distract the robotic sentinels guarding the sites, another would infiltrate the facilities themselves, and a third would evacuate nearby civilians to minimize casualties. As preparations intensified, Jinho noticed something troubling. Woo-seok, a member of the resistance who had joined recently, seemed unusually quiet during briefings. His behavior shifted subtly over time. He avoided eye contact, lingered near sensitive equipment, and disappeared for hours without explanation. At first, Jinho dismissed it as nerves, but his instincts screamed otherwise. Late one night, while reviewing surveillance footage of the alien ship, Jinho spotted something alarming. In the corner of the screen, barely visible, was Woo-seok speaking with a Vorthakian drone. The conversation lasted only moments, but it was enough to confirm Jinho's worst fears. Woo-seok was a double agent. Confronting him wasn't easy. Jinho waited until they were alone, then cornered Woo-seok in a dimly lit storage room. "Why are you doing this?" he demanded, his voice low but firm. Woo-seok hesitated, guilt flashing across his face. Then, with a heavy sigh, he confessed. "I didn't have a choice," he admitted. "They threatened my family. If I didn't cooperate, they'd kill them." Jinho felt a pang of sympathy but quickly suppressed it. Sympathy wouldn't save lives, not now. "You need to tell me everything you've done," he said sternly. "Every detail matters." Reluctantly, Woo-seok revealed that he had been feeding information to the Vorthakians about the Resistance's plans. He hadn't known the full extent of their betrayal until recently, but by then it was too late to back out. "I thought they were here to help," he whispered, tears welling in his eyes. "I never wanted this." Jinho didn't have time to dwell on Woo-seok's remorse. Instead, He relayed the information to Subin, who immediately adjusted their strategy. Knowing the Vorthakians were aware of their intentions meant they had to act faster and smarter. On the morning of the operation, the air buzzed with nervous energy. The teams gathered in a secluded forest clearing, going over last-minute details. Jinho addressed the group, his tone steady despite the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. "This is our chance to fight back," he said. "For ourselves, for our families, for Earth. No matter what happens, we stand together." Subin added her own words of encouragement. "Remember why we're here. Today, we take back what's ours." With that, the teams set off toward their respective targets. Jinho accompanied the infiltration squad, armed with tools and devices designed to disable the mining equipment. Alongside him were Hye-jin and Ji-un, each carrying their own burdens but united in purpose. At the first facility, things went smoothly. At first. The distraction team lured the sentinels away, allowing Jinho's group to slip inside unnoticed. The machines hummed ominously, their tendrils pulsating with dark energy. As Jinho planted explosives along the main power grid, Hye-jin uploaded a virus into the system, corrupting the Vorthakians' data streams. But just as they prepared to retreat, alarms blared throughout the building. Lights flickered wildly, casting the room in chaotic shadows. "They know we're here," Hye-jin shouted, panic creeping into her voice. Sure enough, sentinels stormed into the chamber, their metallic limbs gleaming menacingly. Jinho cursed under his breath, realizing Woo-seok's betrayal had compromised their element of surprise. There was no time to waste. They had to move now. "Ji-yoon, cover us!" Jinho ordered, grabbing Hye-jin's arm and pulling her toward the exit. Ji-un fired her weapon, taking down 2 sentinels before being overwhelmed by sheer numbers. Her screams echoed through the corridor as Jinho and Hye-jin fled, guilt gnawing at them for leaving her behind. But stopping wasn't an option, not when failure meant doom for billions. Outside, chaos reigned. The other teams reported similar setbacks, their progress hindered by unexpected reinforcements. Despite the odds, they managed to complete their objectives, detonating charges and crippling the mining facilities. Explosions rocked the landscape, sending shockwaves rippling through the ground. Back at the base camp, exhausted survivors regrouped, counting their losses. Ji-un was among the missing, presumed dead. Her sacrifice weighed heavily on everyone, especially Jinho, who blamed himself for not protecting her better. That night, Kael'ra broadcast a message to the world. Standing tall and composed, his glowing skin steady once more, he revealed the truth. The Vorthakians needed Earth's resources to rebuild their dying race. What they hadn't disclosed earlier was that extracting those resources would render Earth uninhabitable within decades. "Your survival is irrelevant," Kael'ra declared coldly. "Ours takes precedence." Outrage erupted globally. World leaders condemned the Vorthakians, ordering their immediate expulsion. But the aliens refused to leave, activating defensive shields around their ships and deploying robotic armies to enforce their presence. Cities descended into chaos as people rioted, fearing the end of humanity. In the midst of the turmoil, Jinho and Hye-jin fled Seoul, joining forces with Subin and her remaining fighters. Together, they vowed to continue the fight no matter the cost. The road ahead would be long and brutal, but surrender wasn't an option. As they traveled through war-torn streets, Jinho reflected on how quickly hope could turn to despair, and vice versa. Humanity had faced countless challenges throughout history, emerging stronger each time. This time wouldn't be any different. Together, they would rise against the invaders and reclaim their home. Betrayal had nearly destroyed them, but it had also forged bonds stronger than steel. And in those bonds lay the seeds of victory. The world had changed overnight. Streets once bustling with life were now empty, littered with debris and broken dreams. The Vorthakians' betrayal had shattered humanity's trust, leaving behind fear and anger. Cities smoldered under the shadow of alien ships, their defensive shields glowing ominously against the skyline. Yet amidst the ruins, a spark of defiance burned brightly. Jinho, Hye-jin, Subin, and their resistance fighters refused to surrender. They knew the fight ahead would be brutal, but they also knew it was necessary for survival, for justice, and for Earth itself. Operating from hidden bases scattered across the countryside, the Resistance launched guerrilla attacks on the Vorthakians. Their tactics were simple yet effective. Hit hard, hit fast, and disappear before the enemy could retaliate. Using stolen alien technology reverse-engineered by Min Su, they created weapons capable of piercing the Sentinels' armor and disrupting the drones that patrolled the skies. Every mission brought heavy losses, but the humans fought with desperation born of knowing there was no other choice. Jin Ho struggled with the weight of leadership. He wasn't a soldier or a strategist. He was a scientist who had always preferred books and equations over battles and bloodshed. But necessity had forced him into this role, and he bore it with quiet determination. Each night, as he stared at maps dotted with targets, his mind replayed moments he wished he could forget. The screams of comrades falling in battle, the sight of Ji-un sacrificing herself to save them all. Guilt gnawed at him, whispering that he should have done more, been better. Still, he pushed forward, driven by the belief that their cause was just. Ye-jin stood by his side, her resolve unwavering despite the horrors they faced. She had transformed from a linguist fascinated by alien culture into a fierce advocate for humanity's survival. Her knowledge of the Vorthakian language proved invaluable during missions, allowing her to intercept communications and anticipate enemy movements. Yet even she couldn't shake the memory of Kael'ra's eloquent speeches, which now felt like cruel mockery. How could I have trusted him? She muttered one evening, staring at a decrypted message detailing another mining operation. I let myself believe he cared. You didn't know. Jin Ho replied gently, placing a hand on her shoulder. None of us did. Su-bin kept the group grounded, reminding them why they fought. A natural leader, she inspired loyalty through action rather than words. During raids, she led from the front, her rifle steady and her aim true. Off the battlefield, she tended to morale, ensuring everyone had food, shelter, and hope. Her presence was a beacon of strength, especially for younger members like Ji-won, a teenager who had lost his family in an alien attack. Ji-won idolized Su-bin, following her every order without question. Though barely old enough to hold a weapon, he proved himself time and again, earning respect from even the most hardened veterans. One raid stood out among the rest, a daring assault on a heavily guarded facility deep within the mountains. Intelligence suggested it housed one of the Vorthakians' primary energy cores, powering their operations across the region. If destroyed, it would cripple their efforts significantly. However, infiltrating the site required navigating treacherous terrain and evading countless sentinels. It was a suicide mission by any measure, but the Resistance saw no alternative. Before departing, Su-bin gathered the team around a flickering campfire. This won't be easy, she said, her voice firm but kind. But we've faced worse. Remember what we're fighting for, not just ourselves, but everyone who can't fight back. The journey to the facility tested their endurance. Snow blanketed the ground, freezing winds biting at exposed skin. Supplies ran low, forcing them to ration food and water. Morale wavered, but Su-bin's unwavering optimism kept spirits alive. When exhaustion threatened to overwhelm them, she reminded them of their purpose. Every step brings us closer to freedom, she insisted. Don't give up now. Finally, after days of grueling travel, they reached the facility. Perched atop a cliff overlooking a frozen valley, it loomed like a fortress, its walls reinforced, with alien materials impenetrable to conventional explosives. Sentry towers scanned the perimeter while drones patrolled the airspace above. Getting inside seemed impossible, but impossibility had never stopped them before. Under cover of darkness, the team split into two groups. One, led by Su-bin, created a diversion near the main entrance, drawing the sentinels away from the rear. The second group, commanded by Jin Ho, snuck around to a service hatch hidden beneath layers of snow. Armed with cutting tools and hacking devices, they worked quickly, disabling locks and bypassing security systems. Ye-jin deciphered alien codes scrawled on control panels, guiding them deeper into the complex. Inside, the air hummed with energy, vibrating through their bones. Massive machines lined the corridors, their tendrils pulsating rhythmically. At the heart of the facility lay the core, a towering structure encased in translucent material, glowing faintly with an eerie blue light. It resembled the cocoon Jin-Ho and Hye-Jin had discovered earlier, only larger and more menacing. "This is it," Jin-Ho whispered, setting charges around the base. "Let's finish this." As they planted explosives, alarms blared throughout the facility. Lights flashed wildly, bathing the room in chaotic shadows. Sentinels stormed in, their metallic limbs gleaming menacingly. Gunfire erupted, echoing off the walls as the humans fought desperately to hold their ground. Subin arrived moments later, leading reinforcements that turned the tide temporarily. Together they held off wave after wave of attackers. Buying. "Jin-Ho, enough time to arm the final charge. Everyone out!" Jin-Ho shouted, triggering the countdown timer. The team retreated hastily, dodging blasts and collapsing ceilings. Just as they reached the exit, a deafening explosion rocked the facility, sending shockwaves rippling through the valley. Flames engulfed the structure, consuming everything in their path. The core collapsed inward, its glow fading into darkness. Exhausted, but triumphant, the team regrouped outside, watching as smoke billowed into the sky. For the first time in weeks, smiles broke through grim expressions. They had struck a significant blow against the invaders, proving that humanity still had fight left in it. But victory came at a cost. Ji-Won lay injured, his leg crushed beneath, falling debris. Despite Ji-Yun's absence, her legacy lived on in the medic who treated him, refusing to let him succumb to his wounds. Others bore scars, both visible and invisible, reminders of the sacrifices made along the way. That night, as they rested in a makeshift camp, Jin-Ho reflected on their progress. Each mission brought them closer to reclaiming Earth, but the road ahead remained long and uncertain. The Vorthakians wouldn't give up easily. They were too desperate, too determined. Yet, humanity's resilience shone brighter than ever, fueled by unity and courage. Hye-Jin sat beside him, gazing at the stars. "Do you think we'll win?" she asked quietly. "I don't know," Jin-Ho admitted. "But I do know this. We'll keep fighting until there's nothing left to fight for." She nodded, leaning her head against his shoulder. Together they watched the heavens, dreaming of a future where peace reigned once more. Until then, they would stand firm, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead.